For years, if you wanted to send your data into Google Ads, you had a bunch of ways to do it. Customer match over here, offline conversions over there, enhanced conversions, something else again. Each one with its own setup, its own format, its own little headaches. And honestly, most businesses looked at all of that and just didn't bother. So Google's answer to that mess is something called Google Data Manager. And in this video, I will show you what that actually is and why Google suddenly wants your first-party data this badly. Hi, my name is Julius. I have helped tens of thousands of marketers and analysts configure their conversion tracking properly, and Google Data Manager is about to change how that works. So, the first thing to clear up. When people say Google Data Manager, a lot of them assume it's just a rename. Like Google took the old data section inside Google Ads, slapped a new label on it, moved a few buttons, and called it a day. Well, at the beginning it kind of was, but it's more than that now. Here is how I would describe it. Google Data Manager is Google's solution to become a central place for all the first-party data you send them. It's where you connect your data sources, your CRM, your e-commerce backend, your offline conversions, and from there it flows to Google Ads and a few other Google products. And there are mainly two ways how you can use it. There is the interface, where you can point and click to configure the setup, and there's the API, which is the version that you use when you want to connect your own system with Data Manager by using code. We will go through both options, but before we do, let's cover the biggest question, the one that actually matters. Why did Google build this in the first place? Okay, let's take a step back. Two things have been happening at the same time. First, the browser has stopped being a reliable place to collect data. The death of third-party cookies, ad blockers, iOS restrictions, you name it. So a lot of the conversions and events that used to flow straight into Google are now leaking. Google sees less data than it used to. At the same time, Google moved almost everything to automated bidding. Smart bidding, performance max, all of that stuff. And those systems, they run on AI and the data you feed them. The more signals and the better quality of those signals, the better they target your potential customers. Feed them weak data and they guess. So Google has a very direct reason to want more and richer data going in. And here's the thing, the only reliable data left is your own first-party data. Your customer list, your offline conversions, the enriched stuff from your backend, that's the data strength thing that Google has been talking about for a while. So here's the problem Google is trying to solve. Collecting data is usually not simple. You have multiple ways of doing it, but things can get messy fast if you don't have enough technical knowledge. So, what happens in practice? A lot of businesses sit on their first-party data, but they never really use it. Best case, they've got Google Ads Enhanced Conversions tracking running, and that's it. CRM data, backend data, all of that remains unused. So you can think of Google Data Manager as Google trying to lower the technical barrier. One place for your data, fewer moving parts, and for the simple stuff you don't even need to write code. And look, the reason why Google is doing this is pretty obvious. The easier their data collection process is, the more data they get, the better their ads perform. And better ads performance means that businesses will likely spend more money on ads. Let's take a quick look at the interface. If you log in to ads.google.com, then go to Tools, here on the left sidebar you will see Data Manager. And here is the list of tools that are already connected. And if you scroll down, you will see more options that you can connect as well. For example, you can connect Shopify. Maybe you have some data in Google Sheets, spreadsheet, so then you can connect that. BigQuery is also an option. So as you can see, the list is pretty long. And in fact, if you want to see other options, then you can click Search All. And then let's say type, for example, MailChimp. And here you will see the option, but it's important to note that at least right now, this connection is done via a third-party integration, which in this case is Zapier, but it still is an option, nevertheless. So marketers who don't want to dive too much into things like server-side tagging and they just want some quick way to add additional data to Google Ads, then this interface, I think, will be enough for many of them. For example, let's say that you want to connect Shopify, so you click here, and then here you can select how do you want to connect this. For example, here you can use the direct connection, which means that every time a purchase happens on Shopify, it will be also sent to the data manager, and that way it will be imported into your Google Ads account. And if possible, Google will try to attribute that particular purchase to an ad click that maybe happened a day or a week ago by that same user. You can also select to import Shopify audiences and so on. So each option here will have a different wizard because different tools require different steps. But as you can see, the interface itself is not that difficult. You will just probably need to select a particular account, maybe authorize, select what you want to import, and then done. By the way, one thing to note is that if, for example, you are already tracking purchases with Google Ads native conversion tag, or maybe with server-side tag manager, and you also connect Shopify, it means that the same purchase will be sent to Google Ads from different sources. But as long as the transaction ID of those purchases is the same, then Google will deduplicate and you will not have inflated numbers. By the way, I wanted to show you the results of one of my experiments. So I wanted to see how Data Manager data performs against the classic setup. And when I say classic setup, I mean when using website Google Tag Manager, server-side Google Tag Manager, then the visitor clicks your ads, lands on a website, you send the Google Click ID automatically with those conversions. And then I compared that against the situation if I only have data imported from another system, and I do that with Google Data Manager. So here were the results. The classic setup, where I was still using website and server-side Google Tag Manager, over a particular period, I had 39 conversions. Now for the same period, for the same conversion, but that conversion was imported just from the backend of another website, this is how many conversions were tracked. And in fact, I even ran a third experiment where I created a conversion to which data is sent from both of these sources. I have a classic setup, which means Google Tag Manager, all that stuff. And then also I track purchases and I import them with Google Data Manager. In that case, the result was 44 conversions, which means that most of them were caught by the classic setup, but then some additional conversions were also included thanks to Google Data Manager, because maybe for some reason that conversion was missed by the classic setup. So if you want better conversion numbers, then probably you should consider having both of these systems used together. But let's say that you want more. You want more control, more automation, a proper programmatic setup. Or maybe you're working with a custom platform that Data Manager interface does not support. That's where Google Data Manager API comes in. The API launched in December 2025, and instead of juggling a bunch of different tools to get your data into Google, there's now one single connection to send it all through. Google believes in this approach so much that they even stopped developing Google Analytics Measurement Protocol. That's the way you could send data from your server straight to Google Analytics. It is in maintenance mode now, and Google points you to the Data Manager API instead. You can think of the interface as a quick win, and the API as the version you reach when you want flexibility, automation, and something that scales. Same destination, different control. And I'll be honest with you here. The API side is developer territory. If you or your team cannot write or read a bit of code, and you're not running a server-side Google Tag Manager setup, the interface is where you will live. And that's completely fine. But if you want the enriched, automated version of the first-party data, then API is where the real power is. So, you might be thinking, if I have server-side Google Tag Manager, where does Data Manager fit? Do I even need it? Server-side Google Tag Manager is how you collect and enrich data on your own server. It's where you catch the event, add the user data, your profit data, lead score, whatever you got. Data Manager is the gateway. It's one of the places where you send your enriched data to reach Google. You can send data to Data Manager directly from your system, or you can use server-side Google Tag Manager to first modify the data and then send it to Google. So they are not competitors here. In a lot of setups, they work together. And if you're wondering whether Data Manager could replace server-side Google Tag Manager, that's a topic for another video. So, quick recap. Google Data Manager is Google's attempt to become one central place for your first-party data. There's an interface for connecting your CRM and backend and customer list with clicks, and there's an API for when you want a flexible, automated, and programmatic setup. If you want to actually do something with this, here's where I would start. First, check what first-party data you already have sitting unused. Most businesses have more than they think, for example, a customer list. And second, if you're not technical, then open Data Manager interface and see which of your sources can connect right now, without code. Google is now investing a lot in development of various connections, so there's a chance that the platform that you're using is already supported. And that's the plain English version of Google Data Manager. If you found this video useful, hit the like button. That will help me understand what videos do you like and what should I create in the future. Also, if you want to learn more about how to enrich your conversions with first-party data, how to sync your CRM with Google Ads, how to send data to Google Data Manager API, then take a look at my first-party data masterclass. I will post a link to that course below the video. If you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics, then subscribe to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.